Hello, we're farming this Jane's videos, and we are nearing the end of October, which means it is time for an annual tradition in Jack's Halloween Marathon, and that is to count down my favorite Halloween monsters. This year I'm not doing a top 20, I'm not doing a top 30, but I'm doing a top 40. That's ambitious, but there are so many Halloween monsters out there. Every time I'm brainstorming, I come up with way more than 40. So keep in mind, for a monster to make it on this list, they have to be one of my favorites, even if they're down near the bottom, because there's just so many. Couple rules for this list. I'm not including licensed characters, but I am including characters in the public domain that are associated with Halloween and are classic Halloween, have been a part of Halloween for a while, but not licensed ones, because I would consider that more characters than monsters. Two, these are not all monsters. Some of them are creatures, some are actual humans, but any character, or though not a specific character, anything that is Halloween, not symbols though, more so in a moving, living character or unliving that is associated with Halloween can make it onto this list. I just use monster as a broad term. But with that out of the way, let's jump into my top 40 favorite Halloween monsters, starting in at number 40, which is one I lumped together in two, which is the Crazy Doctor and the Crazy Nurse. I love these guys because they have a lot of personality. I love their insanity, and I think, well, for the nurses, I think the nurses are extremely creepy. A lot of the nurse animatronics we've gotten, for example, are some of the most disturbing animatronics we've ever seen. Doctors aren't as widely seen in Halloween, which I really would like to see more. Though both of these are great characters, and I really want to see more representation of both of them. Number 39 is one that is I would honestly consider it kind of a classic Halloween monster just because it's talked about in Halloween a lot, but it's not seen in Halloween a lot. It's not very prevalent in being the showstopper of a horror film or a Halloween story or a Halloween decorations or a Halloween theme. However, it's still talked about a lot, so I find it interesting that we don't see it more often. It's the swamp monster. I think they're really cool because they can basically be anything that's lurking in the swamp. And just the way they look and everything, I really like the swampy theme anyway, so I think swamp monsters are a really cool character that we should see more of. Number 38 is a witch, and I love witches. However, I just could not put them above any of these others as much as I would love to. I just can't. But I do love witches. Now, when I say witches, I typically mean the green-faced wicked witch type witches, as opposed to the occult witches for Halloween. Just because the green-faced ones just feel more classic Halloween to me, and that's why I like them so much, because they're just a classic symbol of Halloween. Number 37 is actually my favorite bird. It is a raven. I love ravens. They're super gothic, and for Halloween they're extremely creepy with just their overall appearance and the fact that they're an omen of death. They're extremely interesting birds in real life, but I feel like for Halloween they fit in very, very well. Number 36 is the evil ringmaster, which is kind of the counterpart to the evil clown, which we don't see too often, which is surprising. Though they have been on the rise recently, so I'm hoping we'll see more representation of ringmasters. I really like ringmasters because I like the whole circus killer clown vibe in general, but the ringmasters, I love how they take charge and they're in control and all that stuff. I think they're really great characters, and they can be some of the most enthusiastic characters there are, and some of the most twisted as well. Number 35 is a gargoyle. I love gothic stuff. I also love medieval stuff, and gargoyles kind of fit into both of those. And they are a classic symbol of Halloween that, again, it's one that we don't see too much representation of in Halloween anymore, which I really wish we did start seeing more of them again, because they're great. They're great monsters, obviously. They can just be standalone statues, but they can also be an actual living statue, and I think that makes them really creepy and kind of unpredictable. Number 34 is going to be the Executioner. Another one that we don't see much representation of, but it's another one that goes in with that whole medieval thing. Though executioners, I mean, they weren't only in the medieval times. That's typically what I would think of them being in. They're just the fact that they were real kind of adds to the scariness of them. And for Halloween, in real life they were just basically doing their job of executing people that society thought needed to be executed. But in Halloween, they take on a whole different vibe, and they're more evil. They more so torture people, just for the fun of it in the world of Halloween. And I just love how they're always wearing that hood. They seem so emotionless, and like you'd never know who is the executioner. Just really like their overall appearance is one thing that I really like about them. Number 33 is the zombie. Zombies are great, don't get me wrong. The only reason they're so low down on the list is because there's so many others that I love, but I adore zombies. Who doesn't? They're a classic Halloween, and back in the early 2000s and early 2010s, we saw a ton of zombies for Halloween. Halloween costumes, decorations, animatronics, haunted houses. Zombies were all the rage. They've been replaced by clowns now. However, I have seen that they are having a bit of a resurgence. So that's very good to see, because zombies will always be a classic part of Halloween, and they're one of the greatest. Number 32 is one that a lot of people probably don't consider a Halloween monster, but I think it can be put in there. I put it in here last year, and I think it can be put in there just because it is a creepy character that I think deserves to be on the list. Because we've definitely seen more representation of it in recent years. I'm talking about an evil or creepy rabbit. Now, when you think about rabbits, you usually think about Easter, but I don't think anyone would want this type of rabbit for Easter other than other freaks like us. So, rabbits are one of the cutest animals in real life, in my opinion. So when you combine them with something creepy and make them disturbing, for some reason it's really creepy to me. Like, especially a human with a rabbit head. Check out David Lynch's Rabbits if you haven't. It's a shortish horror film, I guess you can call it, and it's very bizarre. It makes absolutely no sense, but I love it because it creeps me out every time I watch it. Really, really love that, and that's something that really made me like creepy rabbits more. But I think my biggest thing was last year, my haunt theme was a laboratory, and my mascot was the Franken-Rabbit Razortail, who was a character I really grew attached to, designing him, creating a prop of him, basing a lot of my haunt story around him, and being able to voice act him. He's a character that I really grew attached to, and I noticed ever since him, I've really liked creepy rabbits a lot more. Number 31 is an insectoid, which is basically a humanoid insect. What I mostly think of when I think about this is the fly, but it doesn't only have to be a fly. It can be a cockroach, it can be literally any insect-human hybrid. But I think the fly is definitely the biggest one, and I think probably the creepiest one, and my favorite one. It feels the most sci-fi, and I love sci-fi horror stuff. I mean, what's not to love about them? They're extremely creepy, and they're definitely one of the monsters that I think creeps me out the most. Number 30 is the haunted doll, which is very popular in Halloween now. I mean, come on, we see them everywhere. We see costumes of them basically every year. We see decorations of them every year. They're a huge Halloween thing in the modern day, and I like them a lot. However, they aren't one that really creeps me out. I think the old cracked dolls that are like really old, those ones creep me out. But a doll that's supposed to look creepy doesn't creep me out, but I still like them. But really, when I'm listing haunted doll, I'm really thinking of the ones that actually look old, and you would think by looking at it that must be haunted. Going along with the haunted doll, number 29 is the haunted puppet, which I actually think are creepier than the dolls, because marionettes and stuff like that are really creepy to me. This is one that, surprisingly enough, though we see a lot of representation of dolls in Halloween, we don't see very many puppets, which I would like to see that change, because I would definitely love to see a lot more puppet stuff. I mean, Halloween Horror Nights is going at it this year with their Puppet Theater haunted house, which I think is one of the best houses there, because I love that theming and I love that whole puppet thing. And I'm really happy that they did that. I really want to see more creepy haunted puppets. Number 28 is an evil teddy bear, which again goes with that whole toy vibe these past few have had. Now, an evil teddy bear is not creepy to me, but I just really like them as characters. I think they're very interesting, and I like them a lot. Number 27, if you know my haunt theme for this year, which is a haunted mansion, obviously I'm going to like these types of characters. Grave diggers and caretakers. Now, it's interesting, a lot of these characters I've listed so far are the actual villains, because most Halloween monsters and characters are villains. However, the Gravedigger and Caretaker, though there are villain ones for sure, like the Halloween Horror Nights Caretaker, for example, which I think I have a picture of on here, most Gravediggers, which I would say there is a difference there, but I kind of clumped them into one just because they're so similar. Most Gravediggers are the spooked ones. They're the ones being kind of creeped out in the cemetery, and I like that. I think it gives them a lot of character, and it feels very Halloween. I think of the Haunted Mansion Gravedigger a lot when I think of this, and how he's always has his trembling legs and he's scared in the cemetery. I really like that. It has a very comical horror aspect to it, which is really what Halloween is founded on. Number 26 is a butcher. Now, when I think of this, you can think of just like a farm hillbilly butcher, but I'm really thinking in particular a pig butcher, not an actual pig, but a butcher wearing a pig's head. I've always found that really creepy, and I love the farm vibe and the serial killer hillbilly whole vibe there. That I really, really like this one, and I always have. I think they're great characters and definitely some of my favorites. Number 25 kind of goes along with that, but it is the serial killer. Now, it's kind of hard every year for me to figure out where to put the serial killer, because a lot of Halloween monsters can, in a way, go under the title of killer. However, when I say serial killer, I'm basically just saying it's a human. It has to be a human to categorize it as this. And they have to be, I don't know, they just have to have that aspect to them. Like they go around killing with a knife or a specific weapon, and they murder people, and they're a human, of course. I don't know. That's why it's so hard for me to decide where to put them each year, because I'm like, I really like blood and gore for Halloween, so why do I have the serial killer so low down compared to the others? Oh, it's because it has all these specifications for what I don't know. It's so hard every year. When I think of this, I think of like Ghostface or a real life scenario, which is mostly what I go to for this character, which is Jack the Ripper. Really interesting stuff, and definitely one of the things that creep most people out. Serial killers don't creep me out personally because they're just a human. You can easily fight back. However, I really like them as characters for Halloween, and of course in horror. They're great, great, great characters. The majority of my characters are serial killers, and that's why I like them so much. They're the perfect villains. Number 24 is the tree monster, or a haunted tree, or spooky tree, or whatever you want to call it. Not just a dead tree, but a tree with a face, a tree with arms as branches. You know, it's super classic Halloween. Everyone's seen them. Unfortunately, this is always the one that is hardest for me to find pictures of for my video for whatever reason. I have no clue why, but for some reason it always is, because they're always like stock images or like cutesy art of them, which is interesting to me because I know they're one of the biggest Halloween symbols, so it's very interesting that I can never find too many pictures of them. But I love them. I always have. They're super cool. Number 23 is a bat. I love bats so much. I think they're adorable. I know some people may disagree. Some people say they look like flying rats, which is one reason I think they're adorable, because I think rats are adorable too. But bats not only are adorable, but they're just super cool creatures. I mean, how they flap their wings, just the way they look, the fact they only come out at night. They're just great creatures, and they are perfect for Halloween. I mean, they're a classic symbol of it, and we see bats in representation of Halloween every single year ever since Halloween was founded. So it's they're a big one and definitely one of my favorites. Number 22 is the Witch Doctor or the Voodoo Priest. I'm really into New Orleans and the whole swamp and voodoo vibe. So it goes without saying that I really like the Voodoo Priest type thing. I think they're great characters, and they're very interesting as well. They can be villains for sure, but they're not always villains, and I think that's another interesting thing about them. Some of them just practice voodoo. Some of them practice voodoo and use it to inflict harm on people. I don't know, they're just really cool, and I really like the whole vibe of them, the whole New Orleans vibe. I love how most of them have like skull painted faces. They're really great characters, and I like them a lot. Number 21 is going to surprise some people who have stuck around for quite a few years, and it is a dragon. Now, the reason that's going to surprise people, for anyone who's not surprised, is because dragons used to be way higher up. Don't get me wrong, I still love dragons. They made it on the list. However, they've just gone down a little bit because we haven't been seeing too much of them in Halloween for the past few years. We were seeing a bunch of them, but then they've had a decline as of late, and it's kind of just, they've kind of been swept under the rug compared to the ones that have surpassed them, because the ones that have surpassed them have been being more prevalent in Halloween, which are kind of reminding me of my love for them. I'm sure I will put dragons higher up eventually, but they kind of went down a little, but I still love dragons. Now, a lot of people don't consider dragons Halloween, and that's fine. I do, because of the fact that they are giant flying monsters. Now, they aren't classic Halloween. However, I think they're a new thing of Halloween. I mean, the fact that we see them so much in Halloween now, of course, in the past few years, it kind of has had a decline. It was 2019, I think, was the biggest year for dragons for sure. But it's had a bit of a decline now. But the fact that we are seeing them in Halloween now shows that they are a Halloween monster now. They're just a new one that a lot of people haven't grown accustomed to yet. But so were clowns in the 80s and 90s. I doubt anyone in the 1950s ever thought of clowns as being a part of Halloween, but now they're one of the biggest parts of Halloween. It just kind of takes time to catch on, and I feel like a lot more people will start accepting dragons as being Halloween as time goes on. Number 20 is the evil Puppeteer, which has really gone up mostly because of Universal's house this year, Puppet Theater. What can I say? Evil puppeteers are fantastic characters. I myself, who's really into theater, really likes these characters because of that aspect and the whole theatrical thing. They're great characters, and really just, they can be very creepy too. A lot of them are completely insane and deranged and wicked and evil, and they seem like some of the most evil characters to me. I don't know why, just the way they look most times, but I really like them. Number 19 is the Bride, which, when I say a bride, you're like, what? If I said Ghost Bride, it would make more sense, but the reason I didn't say Ghost Bride is because it can also be a corpse bride. Tim Burton. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Characters like that, the Corpse Bride, or Constance from the Haunted Mansion. I love brides because of my love for the Haunted Mansion mostly. I mean, that's a big key thing there. And obviously, in my haunt this year, which is a Haunted Mansion theme, my key story is that there's a bride who haunts the mansion, along with the other ghosts, of course, but she's one of the main ghosts. So you can tell I really like brides. They just have this Victorian Gothic vibe to them, which I really like. And the whole idea of a bride being associated with Halloween is, I think it really does stem from Disney's Haunted Mansion. I think they really did start that trend, and it kind of caught on and has really taken off, and we haven't seen too many bride things in recent years, but then starting this year, we've gotten more, and it makes me really happy. Number 18, my bad, is the Mad Scientist. Obviously, because of my haunt theme last year, you're going to know that I love laboratories and mad scientists. They're great characters. They're definitely some of the most crazy Halloween characters. That is why they're called mad scientists in the first place. But they're so classic Halloween, especially ones like Victor Frankenstein, or if you're going to talk about the actual movie Frankenstein, Henry Frankenstein, I believe was his name. But Regardless, they are fantastic characters, and really, I would love to see more mad scientist representation in Halloween because they've been on a decline for quite some time now, and I'd love to see them take the spotlight once again. Number 17 is the alien. I've always loved aliens because they're just, for one, they're really cool. For two, they're really creepy. You're gonna notice right around here, besides the next one, there's some sci-fi stuff going on here because I really love the sci-fi stuff. Aliens are just fantastic. They are very, very creepy, and a lot of people believe in them, which makes them even more creepy. I love all the different types of aliens for Halloween, but I think the best one is obviously going to always be the gray alien. They're the creepiest, they're the most iconic, and they feel the most Halloween out of them all. Number 16 is a classic, the skeleton. Never used to be this high up on the list, but my love for skeletons, I've always loved skeletons, of course. You can't love Halloween and not love skeletons, but my love for them has grown so much in recent years because I've seen their potential, and I used to just see them as kind of like a base character which you can build off of, but I've kind of seen their potential in recent years and realized how great they are that they've made it so high up on the list. I mean, the Grim animatronic from Spirit Halloween is my favorite of the year because he's a classic skeleton. Classic Halloween skeletons are some of the most Halloween things you can get. Aside from jack-o'-lanterns, they probably are the biggest Halloween symbol, and that's just crazy to think how high up they are with Halloween. And when you think of Halloween, they're just one of the things that jumps in your mind first. I mean, it's a skeleton, of course it is. Number 15 is the lab monster, which I call that because, like I said, I'm not including licensed characters, but if I was, I would call this the Frankenstein monster because that's essentially what it is. I'm not really talking about anything that's created in a lab that does not have the appearance of the Frankenstein monster. So I'm technically talking about the Frankenstein monster, but at the same time I'm not, because I'm trying to use a more broad term so it can apply to characters that simply look like him as well, because I mean, the Frankenstein monster has definitely become, though he is a singular character and he's a licensed character, he's definitely become a character that is used not only by the license. Like, everyone knows the name Frankenstein, even if they're not talking about the Frankenstein. I mean, that's just how it is, and he's a huge symbol in Halloween. I love him because he's so classic, but he's also creepy, and he's also sci-fi, which is another thing I really like about him, and laboratory, another thing I really like, but he's just so classic Halloween, and he just gives me all the Halloween vibes with his green face, and I don't know, he's just so cool, I can't explain it. Number 14 is the Grim Reaper. The gothic stuff. Back at it again. One of my favorite things. And Grim Reapers are the ultimate symbol of that. The Grim Reaper is death. And that is a really cool concept. And it's something that we've all grown accustomed to, but when you really think about it, it is a really, really cool idea that the Grim Reaper is literally death personified. And it's what death would look like if it had a physical form. And I think they can definitely be one of the darkest Halloween monsters there are, just because of that fact. Now, Grim Reapers, unfortunately, have had a bad rep in the past few years when it comes to Halloween animatronics, for example. They always gotta make them laugh and give them this deep voice. I just want a Grim Reaper, like the one from A Christmas Carol, that just points with bells tolling in the background and no face. That is the ultimate Grim Reaper, and the creepiest one, I think, because that is death. It's not going to be laughing about taking your soul. Death is just going to be completely emotionless in a dark, black pit. Number 13 is the clown. I love clowns, I always have. They're just great characters. Not only are they great physical appearance-wise, I mean, they look awesome, and there's so many different varieties of them, but their personalities, I think they definitely have the most personality out of any Halloween monster or character that there is. And the whole idea of them just finding pain and suffering and death so funny is just so screwed up, and I love the screwed up stuff. So I might have a few screws loose myself, but I love me some clowns. Number 12 is the classic black cat. I love black cats so much. I've said it in recent videos that bats are my favorite animals, but I think I've come to the conclusion that black cats are actually my favorite animals. You could say cats in general, because I really just like cats, but really, black cats are my favorite animals because, I mean, for one, they're just great animals as it is, but two, Halloween, they are an ultimate Halloween symbol, and I don't know, they just give me all the Halloween vibes. Not only that, but they're just adorable. I love them. I love my black cat Sparky. He's the sweetest little thing, and at the same time, every time I look at him, it gives me Halloween vibes. But I specifically like the vintage black cats. Those ones, I love them so much. They're fantastic. But number 11 is the Mummy, which is, I don't get it. I do not get it. I do not get why we don't see mummies that often in Halloween anymore. I mean, they have always been. Like, if you were to name the top Halloween monsters right off the top of your head, I would think pumpkins, scarecrows, devils, witches, skeletons, ghosts, vampires, mummies, werewolves. I might have already said that. Frankenstein. Mummies are always in there. Why don't we see them anymore? With that out of the way, I love mummies because I've always been fascinated with ancient Egypt. And mummies are just, they're super cool and they're super creepy at the same time, as well as interesting with the whole historical tie-ins and the fact that they are real. Obviously, they don't actually come to life and strangle people to death, though that would be interesting. There are real mummies out there, and it's just creepy to think. Number 10 is one that really wasn't even on my list until last year when we finally saw more representation of it, and I was reminded how cool it was. It's the Plague Doctor. What else can be said? Like I said, I love gothic type stuff, and that's the essence of it. I'm really into, if you can't tell, my biggest things I'm into for Halloween are the classic stuff, the gothic stuff, and the dark gore type stuff. And the Plague Doctors are dark. I mean, the fact that they were real, and it's just very interesting. I find that time period alone interesting, but the Black Death itself was a very interesting thing that happened, and a very sad thing. But the Plague Doctors are just not only a very dark character that reminds of dark times and reminds us of our mortality, but they just look super cool. What else can I say? Their bird masks are creepy as hell, and I love them. I'm very happy that we've definitely seen more representation of them in Halloween, which, yeah, it is because of a certain pandemic circling our world that we have seen it. But nevertheless, we're seeing representation of them now. Number 9 is the man-eating plant. If you know me, you know I love man-eating plants. I always have. And we finally got a man-eating plant animatronic this year. But for one, I wish it didn't talk. But I was going to look past it because of how much I love man-eating plants and how much I've been dying to get my hands on a man-eating plant forever. But then it didn't arrive at my Home Depot. Unfortunate. But regardless, I am so happy with the increase in popularity of man-eating plants for Halloween. The reason I love man-eating plants is simple. Little Shop of Horrors, one of my favorite movies of all time, always has been ever since I was little, and that's really why. But also, they're just cool in general. I mean, they're really creepy. The fact that they're big, giant plants with mouths that literally eat people. They're creepy, and I like them a lot. Number 8 is a pirate, which I know I used to kind of get in arguments with people about whether a pirate is Halloween or not, but I think as time goes on, more and more people are accepting that it is. It's become a pretty big symbol of Halloween. Unfortunately, we don't see much representation of it in Halloween, yet most people still recognize it as working for Halloween. Um, Obviously, I'm not talking about a normal pirate. I'm talking about skeleton and ghost type pirates. I love them because I love Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean, so I already love pirates. So when you take a pirate and then you turn it creepy, it's like a dream come true to me. And I really, really like pirates for Halloween. Number 7 is a vampire. This should not surprise anyone because on this whole list I've been talking about how I love the Gothic Victorian stuff. Vampires are the most Gothic and Victorian things. Not only is their fashion sense really cool and I really just like how they look, but they're classic Halloween all the way through. I love the Dracula type vampires a lot. And I think my favorites are definitely always going to be the Nosferatu ones that look like bats with the long ears and the pointed noses. Those ones definitely will always take the cake for me, but all vampires are great. Number 6 should not come as a surprise since my 2021 haunt theme is a haunted mansion. This should not come as a surprise. It is a ghost. Ghosts are so cool. Again, so classic Halloween. And really, my main reason I love ghosts, I would say, is Disney's Haunted Mansion. However, I also love ghosts just because, I mean, they're classic Halloween, but also because out of everything in the world, hardly anything scares me or creeps me out. Ghosts creep me out. They do. And I don't even know if I believe in them or not. I don't think I do. However, they still creep me out because part of me does believe in them, and for some reason, they're just the thing that creeps me out the most. I don't know why, but it really makes me like them a whole lot. Number 5 is the Pumpkin Man / the Pumpkin Monster. So, obviously, this can be anything that's like a pumpkin mutant thing or just a pumpkin man. So like a pumpkin monster that's covered in vines and stuff, but actually what I more so like are the pumpkin man that's like in a suit and a top hat and a tailcoat and all fancy Victorian pumpkin man. It's just a classic Halloween symbol, and obviously Jack's Halloween Marathon, take a look at him. That's exactly what he is. What a stud. I love the character, and I wish we saw more representation of it in Halloween. It's interesting because I'm not really sure where that design choice came from, but it became its own standalone Halloween character, which is very interesting because, I mean, pumpkins have always been Halloween, but the standalone design of a pumpkin wearing a top hat and a tailcoat and stuff, I really do wonder where that started. I would assume it would be in like vintage Halloween decorations and stuff, but I really want to know why it started with them wearing the top hat and the tailcoat and how it caught on, because that's really interesting that became its own standalone thing. Number 4 is the Scarecrow. I love scarecrows. I mean, most people know this. Scarecrows are amazing. They are so classic Halloween, and I love... If there were two, I'm going to say two because I can't pick between the two. But if there were two Halloween themes that are my absolute favorites, it's always going to be Farm and Haunted Mansion, followed by satanic and demonic stuff. But Farm and Haunted Mansion, always going to be at my top. And scarecrows are just so cool, and they're so creepy too. I mean, it depends on the scarecrow, but when I'm talking about this, I'm literally talking about creepy scarecrows, especially when they're like lifeless on the wooden cross. They're really cool characters. I love them. They're super cool. Number 3 is the devil / the demon. I love these so much, and everyone knows that I do. I am often referred to, and this is spoiling number 1, but you already know what number 1's going to be, so it doesn't matter. But I'm often referred to as the devil and werewolf and demon haunter, especially by Hauntformer, because it's just what people think of when they think of my taste in and the type of stuff I like. I really like devils and demons because, and I will always say this every year, I am a Christian. So I believe that they exist, and that adds a level of scariness to them that makes me like them more for Halloween. Because, I mean, the whole purpose of Halloween is to be scared. It adds a real level of scariness and realism, and it makes the characters just feel so much more intense and evil, and it makes me like them more for Halloween. I also just really love their designs with the goat heads and the horns and the wings. They're great. I've always loved them, and I always will. Number 2 is the only actual character on this list, other than what you would count maybe the lab monster, if you would. Headless Horseman. I consider the Headless Horseman the mascot of Halloween. Yes, the jack-o'-lantern is the symbol of Halloween. But the Headless Horseman is to Halloween as Santa Claus is to Christmas. The jack-o'-lantern is to Halloween as the Christmas tree is to Christmas. So, the Headless Horseman is definitely the mascot of Halloween for sure. And I've always loved him. He's just the essence of everything Halloween. And I love the legend of Sleepy Hollow. I've been to Sleepy Hollow. I went there last season, and I just love everything about the Headless Horseman. I really like that time period in history that he's supposed to be from, the American Revolution, and the fact that he's that Hessian soldier that got his head blown off with a cannonball. It's interesting, and he just feels so Halloween. Every time I see him, I'm just reminded of Halloween, and he just fills me with happiness. Number 1 should not come as a surprise, and if it does, why are you surprised? It is the werewolf. I can't explain it. I cannot. I try and try and try to explain why I love werewolves so much, and I don't know why. I just do. They're just super cool. They're one of the most badass Halloween monsters for sure. They're gigantic. They're very threatening. They have no mercy because they're controlled by animalistic rage and instinct. They're just so amazing, and they've always been my favorite ever since I was little, and they always will be. Nothing, and that one thing that's always going to remain the same. I mean, the top 5 are always going to, I should say the top 10 should almost always be the same, with the exception of 10, because that changes around sometimes. But the top 10 should almost always be the same. But the one that you know for a fact is never going to change every year you come back to this video is going to be the werewolf. It's always going to be there. And that is why it is my favorite Halloween monster, because it's so cool. Those were my top 40 favorite Halloween monsters. It was ambitious, it was long, but I'm glad you guys joined me for the ride. Halloween is coming, and making this video always gets me so excited for it. It's almost here, only a little over a week away. I hope you all enjoyed, and get ready, because the spookiest day of the year is almost here. Keep howling at the moon, my werewolves.